what it is, what it was, what it shall be. Video 65. Today we're talking about thought forms. Really talking about it this time. Let's see what we call today's video. Using thought forms to alter reality. Simple, right? A lot of this is really simple, but the most important thing for most people, they're blocked with their concepts. They're conceptual models of reality. Like they see reality in a dog-like materialistic point of view, and they don't have a paradigm based on energy exchange. Okay, so okay, I'm going to give a short introduction. I try to not go too long with these. But there's a few key concepts in Buddhism that are basically some of the really essential facets of wizarding. They're so essential to being successful at it. And I can also say that really all that's required to do wizarding is your willpower. You know? But there's a lot that blocks and gets in the way of that. But if you do wizarding based on willpower alone, you're not going to like the results. I can promise you that. It's because there's a certain deceptive quality to just pure willpower by itself. It kind of takes on a life of its own, and it deviates from clear perception. So most people, when they hear about the religious disciplines and people's ethics and all these rules of how they behave, like they think of that as like some kind of strict punishment, or, you know, in our world, I mean, it's understandable why they think that way, because in our world, what we call religion is not religion at all. It's an authoritarian world domination plan, you know. It's a counterfeit. It's the opposite. It presents as the opposite of what it actually is. Claiming to liberate you, but it really enslaves you, right? So what I'm saying is, the reasoning behind ethical discipline has nothing to do with praise or blame or sin and redemption. Like, it doesn't have nothing to do with that. You know, it's like what we call God, or the creative force behind all reality, doesn't really care about stuff like that, because it comes from an infinite perspective. Like stuff that we look at as, you know, relevant to our human perspective and our selfish, you know, self-obsessed ego materialism, like that has nothing to do with reality and what kind of results you get for things. Like, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? What matters is that you have a realistic conception of how energy exchange works, right? If you don't have a realistic conception of that, you're going to hurt yourself and you're going to create chaos, and that's not what you want. So when people hear a lot about compassion, about Mahakaruna, the great compassion, and equanimity, having equal compassion for absolutely everything, not even just humans, not even just plants and bugs and insects, but actual matter itself, like recognizing, because really it's not like something you do to be nice or to get brownie points. Like, that has nothing to do with it. It's just the way that you understand reality. It's just a pragmatic, simple understanding. Like, it's not about good and bad or fashions and cultures and, you know, mores of a society. Like, that has nothing to do with any of that. It's like physics. It's like law of reality. That's just how it is. So this is so important to being successful with wizarding. It's like literally this. There's two things that are the most important. One is your concepts and your worldview. Number two is your understanding of cause and effect. And when most people say morality and ethics, they're just talking about cause and effect, like how the nature of your actions will correspond to the nature of the result that arises out of it, right? Just simple. It's like Newton, you know, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Like, that's pretty simple, right? But people, through materialism, they don't understand the nature of action and reaction, because they don't understand energy. They don't know how to think about energy, right? Okay, so that's the introduction. Now, back to what we were saying yesterday, shunyata. Okay, shunyata is the worldview. and the conceptual framework that's most applicable to wizarding. Like, you have to kind of see the world in this way. Like, if you see the world through a materialistic lens as these fixed hard objects that you can buy and sell and weigh and label and put a UPC code on, like, you're never gonna get it. And everything you try is gonna be inefficient and wasteful. And that's why the whole world is covered in garbage right now, because of a materialistic view, not understanding energy exchange, right? And also the way that you're going to use to try and manipulate objects or get results that you want on a materialistic basis is basically like fetishism. It's like a little kid with a little wooden plastic sword thinking that they're King Arthur or something like that. You know, it's just, it doesn't matter. You put costumes and all that stupid shit does not matter at all. It doesn't matter. And so people go through their life like, oh, let me put on a badge, let me put on a uniform and some glasses and a lab coat, and now people will have to listen to what I say. See what I mean? That's how our reality works right now, and our society is all based on fetishism and elitism and pretend and deception. That's all it's about. It's a counterfeit and a con, right? The reality is energy-based. The reality is information-based, right? And so if you think about the world around you as an energy form, that's characterized by this shunyata, this changeability at the most fundamental level. It's changeable, it's flexible, it's floating, it's like in flux at all times, right? So if you want to transform your circumstances, you have to understand that, and you have to believe that. And so any form of materialism is a complete non-starter. It's a non-negotiable obstruction to wizarding. It's just that simple. So say, okay, I can get the critique that many people probably have listening to a certain amount of these videos, and they're like, you're not talking about wizarding at all. But I am. You have to see how it works. Like, it's, okay, what is wizarding? Wizarding's causing changes in the outer world accordance with your will. Okay, so to do that, you have to correctly understand the nature of reality itself, material objects, energy, you know, our thoughts, and how all these interpenetrate and interplay and affect each other, right? So, like I was saying, thought forms, how thought forms condition our actions. If we have a thought form, a conception of reality that's inaccurate or leaves things in this really rigid, fixed way, everything's going to seem impossible, and we're going to exhaust ourselves and expend crazy amounts of energy that's totally unnecessary trying to manipulate things on that basis, right? So what I'm talking about is the connection between thought forms and what I call upstream causality, which is basically like another way of saying wizarding. It's like you're producing effects in the world through means that are mysterious and unknown to other people. Okay, how does that work? You're going upstream. Thoughts precede actions, precede physical circumstances. Okay, so if you're working strictly on the physical, that's the most inertial form. It's the heaviest, densest form of things that takes the most energy to push and move around. But if you go upstream, you change things before they even happen. You change them in the upstream of causal chain, right? And that's mostly in here, okay? It's internally, because our perception, okay, first of all, our thoughts are the roots of our actions, okay? Our perceptions are the roots of our thoughts, okay? So our paradigm and our actual hardware is upstream of all of those, okay? So if you affect things at that level, everything that flows from that is already done. You know how that saying goes, Sun Tzu, every battle is won before it's fought. And that's it right there. Now you understand wizarding, okay? So what I've been doing up to this point is trying to describe all the tools that you use and the conceptual framework that you have and the ideas that you have about the outer world is essential. And nothing's really possible unless you get that right. You know, or else you're going to be fighting upstream. It's not that nothing's possible, but you're just going to be wasting so much energy. And by having a misunderstanding of the dynamics, you're going to produce chaotic results that are not what you intend. And there's going to be tons of friction in the process, right? There's going to be so much friction and heat and resistance produced by that process. It's super inefficient, okay? So that's why I'm trying to understand and explain how starting in here is the strongest, fastest way to produce change. Another thing, the reason why these kind of forces actually rule the world right now is because these type of actions are subtle and hidden, and most people won't even perceive that they're there. So you can be working completely in that plane and no one will even know. No one will have any idea unless you choose to show them. You know what I'm saying? But that's a critical factor right there. Okay, so now we're talking about thought forms again. And so doing wizardry basically is having really strong, powerful thought forms that are potent, that are focused and concentrated and very precise, but also fluid, receptive, and dynamic, responding to change. They're alive, living thought forms. Boom. Autonomous, self-persisting, self-perpetuating thought forms. How do you do that? How do you build that? Daily practice. Discipline. See, everyone's only listening to this because they think it's about wizarding. They don't really want to know any of the fundamentals of how to do the thing. And it's number one, discipline. Absolute self-control, complete self-control, like self-control beyond what most people even can conceptualize. When I say self-control, the step 0 or step 1 of Tantra is total mindfulness throughout day and night. When you're asleep, you're meditating. When you're in a knocked unconscious state, you're meditating still. When you're dreaming, you're meditating. When you're your mind is like a fucking laser beam. And you're familiar with these like altered states of consciousness so that they don't disorient you and don't disrupt the flow of your ideas and your mental work. Okay? This is an extremely difficult thing. Okay, first of all, you have to know about the brain states, right? Alpha state, beta, gamma, delta, theta, like bam, bam, bam. These are all distinct electrostatic signatures of our brain activity. And those are super vague. Like you could even get way more detailed into it than that. But I'm talking about these visionary experiences, waking dreams, lucid dreams, creation of mental whole internal hologram, like a virtual reality, right? These are all produced by the activities of our nervous system and our brain, and the pulsations and the frequencies and the rhythms of that. So thought forms are these stabilized, solidified, and durable, energetic patterns that we create, okay? I used to draw a certain drawing every day. Once a day, I would do it. I would draw, and it all started with an eyeball, because I'm like, an eyeball, that's a symbol of receptivity and clarity. It's a symbol of being receptive to light, the highest part of energy, and opening your perceptions to previously unseen things, right? So I would draw one every day, and I got super detailed, and I had this whole little line by line, like every step of it was like a process, and I would change it a little as I went and improve it. But like, the point is, I did it every single day. It was a ritual, it was a routine. And there was a whole sequence of, like, that was just the first step of the whole ritual. And everything kind of proceeded out from there. But what I was doing was building a thought form. Okay? So, most people don't want to hear about any of that and the discipline of it and the persistence that you have to go through. And all the self-discovery is like a whole... It's traumatic, to say the least. And no one wants to hear about hard work. They want some hippy dippy bullshit and fucking Marianne Williamson telling you about The Secret and law of attraction. That's for dum-dums. That's for people who can't actually do any type of meditation or thought, or don't have any memory, or don't have any mental capacity really at all. Okay? It's just feeling good. Like psyching yourself up into feeling good and pretending shit's good when it's not, and you're buying products. It's like, the reality is worse than boot camp. It's like psychological torment combined with chaos, combined with not knowing what's real and what isn't. And you got to work through it every day. Run up that hill, go through the shadow of the valley of death, you know, you go through it all every day and you survive, and that's how it works, and build strength.